Welcome to the Rock Fight, where we speak our truth, slay sacred cows, and sometimes agree to disagree. This is an outdoor podcast that aims for the head. I'm Colin True, and today on the show, we're going to do our thing, running through 3 of the more notable outdoor headlines to come out of our community and industry over the past week. And we're going to do that after I talk about my trip to Denver to attend the Outdoor Market Alliance's media show and how that trip pinpointed some of the bullshit that I think we deal with in the outdoor industry. But before we get to that, a few housekeeping items. Please follow and rate The Rock Fight wherever you're listening on any podcast app. We love seeing that 5-star rating, and it really helps the show. Please hit that up. And if you're an Apple Podcast listener, please leave us a written review. And if you do, send a screenshot of your review to myrockfight@gmail.com so we can send you a Rock Fight or Gear and Beer sticker. And that's also exactly where you can reach out to the show just for fun. If you want to send us some feedback, you want to send us some questions, send it to myrockfight@gmail.com. Our social media, hey, you hit us up. Instagram's kind of where we post the most. Over at the handle there is rockfight.co, so check that out. And rockfight.co, that's also our URL, which if you go to rockfight.co on the old website there, you can sign up for our newsletter. News from the front comes out every Sunday. Click join the mailing list on the website. All right, let's start the show. Last week, I gave you my final thoughts on outdoor trade shows for summer 24, but there was one more event that was held at the Outdoor Market Alliance this past week in Denver that was not a trade show, but a media show. I got to attend it this week with producer Dave, so I want to give you guys a rundown of what went on there. Now, the Outdoor Market Alliance is a showroom outside of Denver where the top independent sales agencies representing brands from the outdoor industry have spaces where they can host retailers. If you're not that familiar with our industry, or if you're just more of an outdoor consumer and you're learning about the industry, it's pretty typical that outdoor brands hire independent sales agencies and representatives to sell in their products to retailers. Independent meaning they don't work directly for the brand. These are small businesses made up of a tight team of reps across a particular region. They represent multiple brands and make their money based off commissions from selling the products from these brands to the outdoor shops that we all love to go to. The Outdoor Market Alliance is a collective of these small independent businesses in the Rockies who are able to put their competitive differences aside and create a permanent showroom that shows off pretty much every relevant brand in the outdoor space. And I'm actually going to bring on Steve Copeland, who's one of these independent reps and the president of the Outdoor Market Alliance, onto the Rock Fight in the near future to talk about it. We actually tried to do it a few months ago. We had some audio issues, and I'm actually really glad that didn't work out, because now having seen the facility and the actual collective of brands and agencies there, it'll be a much better conversation, I think, with Steve. So stay tuned for that. That'll be in the next few weeks. But this week was the media show at the Outdoor Market Alliance, where a couple of years ago, some smart people saw the fact that pretty much every outdoor brand was on display in one building in what is effectively in the middle of the country. Sorry, Denver, I know you think of yourself as, being in the mountains, but you're kind of in the middle. It's easy to get to from pretty much anywhere in the country. And they figured out it would be a great setting for PR agencies to have their own event where they could meet with media and talk about what's new and happening in the outdoor industry with journalists who cover the outdoor space. So producer Dave and I were there. We traveled to Denver, and much like everything else we've experienced this summer, it was another great event, another example of a smart event with real purpose that addressed a need for a segment of the outdoor industry. And with that in mind, here's sort of where the bullshit comes into play, because while I was there, I noticed a brand that a friend of mine works for who is part of a sales group that has space at the Outdoor Market Alliance and was not participating at this show. So I shot my buddy a text and asked him why, and he responded that the company he works for didn't think they needed to go. And they didn't want to spend the money required to exhibit, which apparently was in that kind of 11 to 13K range. I didn't verify that amount with the media show director, but for the sake of argument, let's just go with that number for a second and break this down. Because on just the basics side of things, previous to this show, to the media show at the Outdoor Market Alliance, the biggest opportunity to have back-to-back-to-back meetings like this with the majority of the outdoor media world, well, it used to be an outdoor retailer. Media and PR folks were as busy at that show during its peak as sales and product folks were. Outside of that, PR and media have historically been lumped into other existing trade shows or PR agencies also, they typically host their own events in places like New York City, and they've done that forever. But by having almost every relevant agency in one place to have a media-focused event showed the importance of messaging in our space and shined a light on a segment of our business that a lot of people tend to take for granted. Now, to kind of keep breaking this down, the smallest booth I ever paid for, well, not me personally, the brand I worked for paid for at Outdoor Retailer, and this was probably in the 2012, 2013 range, so when the show was pretty big, was in that 25 to 30K range. And that was for a very basic, small space. Very little room for meetings. And the bigger brands who exhibited at that time would show up with multiple rooms, oftentimes multiple floors in their booth for their meetings, and would spend literally hundreds of thousands of dollars for their booth space. And, also like we've talked about ad nauseum over the past 2 months, the main two options for brands to attend other shows over the past months were GOA Connect, where all of the big and relevant brands show up, but where media doesn't have much of, if any, presence, and the current version of Outdoor Retailer, where those big brands don't show up, at least as of now, and media is invited. So they're not really great options for the kind of meetings we had this week at the Outdoor Market Alliance. And so let's call this for $12K, according to what I heard from my friend. This brand could have had similar exposure and meetings that it would have had at peak OR, only for way less money and without the distractions of what a big show includes, because a big show is a lot of things. This was a specific event for media only, for way less money. And the kicker to all this, guys, is that this brand's PR agency, they were already there for other brands. And the beauty of the OMA media show is it's low overhead. There's no booths to set up. It's low maintenance. It's as close to a plug-and-play event that you're going to find in the outdoor industry. I bring up all this to say that there's been kind of nothing but complaining about events and trade shows since I came into the industry over 20 years ago that has sort of reached this new level over the past 6 years or so. It's one reason why we talk about it so much on The Rock Fight. And I spoke to at least half a dozen people this past week who didn't go to OR this summer, who told me that that show wouldn't be worth their time. And it just shows me that we all have these things that we want. We all want to be right about it, but very few of us are really willing to try something new, which is kind of funny because this industry is built on the back of solving problems. The best outdoor brands have a story to tell, not because they make something that looks or feels good, but because their products create a way for enthusiasts to have a better or successful experience outside in the face of dangerous conditions or natural obstacles. And this event was that level of innovation for the media part of our space. It exists because a group of sales agencies, competitors by nature, decided that their businesses would all benefit from a certain level of collaboration. So innovation led to more innovation in the way that now the media takes part of this. And this is very much the outdoor way of things. And for you, dear listener, this little event is going to pay off because Gear and Beer is coming back in August with an expanded tasting menu at the Outdoor Market Alliance media event. We started working towards appearances from folks from Gear Junkie, Nemo, Black Diamond, as well as super interesting and fresh journalistic voices and a ton of other brands as well. So it was a worthy time. I think I wanted to shine a light on this for other folks who maybe were on the fence about attending something like this in the future. It's definitely worth your time, and it's simple and relatively inexpensive. I want to bring in producer Dave because he was there with me and has a huge background in the creative side of things and marketing. Dave, what did you think of the Outdoor Market Alliance media show?
Well, it was my first OMA media show, and my first thought was really, why haven't we been doing this sooner? Right? It just took the showroom aspect that we normally apply to, like you say, New York, where you have concentrated media, but now just kind of flipped it around. Let's put it in a concentrated sales room or showroom aspect of multiple brands. It was very, kind of heavy on the outdoor media titles. You're not going to get a lot of lifestyle titles there, but that was actually part of the thing that was cool about it because we got down to business. It was concentrated on products. It was concentrated on stories about the brand in the outdoor space. So not only do you have the PR folks going through the line, which is already set up because there's a showroom there, You're also getting the occasional salesperson would be there because it's their showroom.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden you're engaged in a much deeper conversation about the product. They're able to bring context to it. I thought it was one of the best kind of media days that I've been a part of. And again, I love the showroom aspect. Even in New York, that's a great way to do it. But it's certainly a lot more money. You got a lot more kind of T&E aspect to it. Where here they really
Yeah, and it's usually one agency, right? If you're like one agency, you rent
there's
a
that.
showroom in New
We've
York.
also done kind of multiple. We've had that kind of concept where you rent out a single room, multiple agencies, PR agencies get together, but now you're still going, you're still setting up your space. You're limited to a much smaller footprint because of the cost and just the time to do that. Where here, these were semi-permanent showrooms already in place. So there was none of that.
Yeah.
And so you got to see a lot more of the line. I really liked being able to go. I mean, it's speed dating for story ideas, right? And so you got to go from one brand, you got to hear about it, you sat down, you get to it. You could table some topics if you needed to, but then half hour's up and boom, you're going to the next one. And so really also seeing the context. I think too it was also it's not so much everyone's just kind of showing off everything. There was a chance to have embargoed discussions about items that aren't ready to be seen yet.
And we did. We signed an NDA
right,
for
there
one of
you
them.
go. And even the way the showrooms are built, it's like you can have your privacy, you can have your you don't have to show off everything and kind of keep that kind of competitive aspect to it.
Yeah, then there's the whole just the intangibles of what everybody talks about with events, of just being there, seeing people. Honestly, I heard multiple people from different agencies talk about how they really valued being there with their competitors, basically. I didn't refer to them as competitors, but that's kind of what they are. It's just like, it was really interesting being there with all these folks who maybe they've crossed paths over emails, or they took on a client that somebody else used to have or whatever, and they felt it was really beneficial to kind of be there in the same room and say hello and meet each other. Like, just only good things come from that.
Look, the industry is really a collection of neighborhoods, right? We all have our own little neighborhoods that we see each other at, and we know that's continually brought up. What's missing with the lack of a real centralized experience? This is a way to cobble some of those together. I could see this. The sales aspect is what it is. The media now is a piece. I could see I know that we were talking about content creators and how to bring other neighborhoods of the industry together in this kind of smaller, regionalized way. And this seems like a perfect bringing in the showroom as a central hub makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, well, thanks again for the organizers for bringing us out, and was excited to be there, and definitely excited to attend again. I think they did a great job. So let's move into the next thing, which of course is our weekly segment, More with Thermore. Thermore, the original ingredient brand, who has been providing insulation solutions from Italy since 1972. Just kind of want to give an update on my goals for summer 2024. I think I had, the big one I really wanted to focus on the most was surfing twice a week, which I was on a nice run of doing until this past week when I had to fly to Denver for the Outdoor Market Alliance. So I'm going to just wipe this week away. This week didn't happen in terms of my outdoor plans for the summer, and I'm going to go based off of the week before last, when I did get in the water 2 times, which is what I was planning on doing, and now I'm going to pick it up again this week to get back. So I'm still on track. I'm not saying that I was not derailed by being in Denver this past week, is what I'm trying to say here. But all that being said, we were only in Colorado for a couple of days. It was warm when we got there, and the next morning I got up to go get coffee. It was a little chilly out because it's that alpine kind of high elevation air going on, and the sun goes away, the temperature drops. You know what I could have used? I could have used a shacket. Could have used a shacket, kind of like the Stio Skycrest, which is a versatile shacket with the versatility coming from 60-gram Thermore Eco Down, which is 100% post-consumer recycled Eco Down, and it's the sustainable alternative to feathers. And during this time of year, when you might be high up in the hills where the temperature might drop, or you have mornings or evenings like I did where you need some versatility, but you still want to look good. It's a good-looking garment. The 5-star Stio Skycrest with Thermore, it's your best option, guys. You should get out there and check it out. If you want to check it out, you head over to Stio.com and check out the Skycrest, or you head to Thermore.com to learn about Thermore. And don't forget, make sure you get out there and do more in the outdoors this summer with Thermore.
So, Colin, I do want to add, does the outdoor patio at the brewery count as an outdoor experience?
It was. I mean, I feel like we should have done something a little more outdoorsy than sit around in a showroom all day long to kind of earn that outdoor experience. But yeah, I'm going to call it. Sure. Yeah, we're in Golden, Colorado, right?
Excuse me. You just weren't paying attention then, because outdoor in the patio, not only did we have the taco truck, which I think is also the basis of any outdoor experience, there was the trailhead with the baby goats. And hiking with baby goats is just kind of next level.
We missed the baby goats. We didn't get to go do the baby goats.
We didn't have the shacket either, but the beer was good.
All right, let's get into our headlines for today. The first one is per SGB and other various outlets, VF has come to terms with eyewear conglomerate. Is it Essilor? Am I saying that right? EssilorLuxottica to acquire apparel maker Supreme for $1.5 billion. Supreme was acquired by VF in 2020 for more than $2 billion. Now, VF, who also owns the North Face, Timberland, Smartwool, Vans, Dickies, among many others, has hit a bit of a rough patch of late. And financial analysts have been anticipating the selling off of at least one brand, if not several brands, as a response. Now, this is not a financial podcast, so I'm not going to wade into those waters about the terms of the deal and everything without a business analyst here to guide me. But I am kind of curious about what the future holds for Supreme as a brand. So you kind of go to their web. I went to their website to check it out, and Supreme started in 1994. And per their website, they started as the, quote, home of New York City skate culture, and their core demo being neighborhood kids, New York skaters, and local artists. The last engagement I personally had with Supreme was more than 10 years ago when we were chasing them to buy Polartec fabric. And they, at the time, and maybe they still are, but they were the 100% the coolest apparel brand in the active apparel market. And if you go look at Supreme-focused threads on Reddit, it's clear the brand is still popular, but it's definitely more widespread. There's been a little bit of a I don't think the VF acquisition was really received entirely well by their fans, but still, they're still very popular. And even though it's available more places than it's ever been before. It honestly, though, feels weird to me to think of Supreme as a billion-dollar brand when I think of other brands that are valued at over $1 billion. So I kind of want to be curious, where does Supreme go from here? I mean, Dave, from a creative point of view, or even just a marketing point of view, a brand point of view, like, where does Supreme go from here? Like, what are they? What are they now compared to what they used to be?
Well, I would even direct this a little bit. What does this mean from an outdoor point of view? And I'm going to say not much. I mean, look, it was always a kind of a weird fit when VF bought them. They certainly bought high. I think the streetwear industry definitely had a WTF kind of moment of like, what's going on here? Now with the sale, there's more hand-wringing for sure, because now it's just the second time in not a short amount of time. In fact, one of the posts from High Snobiety was actually a headstone with Supreme carved into it. So
when VF acquired
over this new sale.
Oh, yeah, this
look,
new
the
one.
New sale, again,
this is
the new owner too isn't really a natural owner in the same way. You're talking about primarily an eyewear brand, okay, and not only just an eyewear brand. I mean, the Ray-Bans, Oakleys, things like that. Most of the fashion brands that they're involved in are licensing, so they're really taking cues from the master brands in terms of how they do that. It remains to be seen. Right now they're going to say they're going to keep their hands off and allow Supreme to be Supreme, and I do believe that. But at the same time, what does that really mean for this brand? Where you could see the leverage, at least in the portfolio of VF, in terms of they had a bunch of
VF
they had a bunch of collaboration partners, right? And so it just really kind of made sense to do that, and they could really help each other. I think the bigger question is really not even about Supreme in the sense that VF, right? So what does this mean for VF, right? They are trying to bring down debt. I know it's not a finance conversation, but that's a huge factor into why they're letting this brand go. Vans could be next, because again, it's not another natural play in terms of this outdoor portfolio, and they have their challenges.
Right. Timberland, though, if you point out the outdoor, Timberland's been a rumor. It's been rumored to be punted by VF.
Although Timberland makes more sense than the other two, just in the sense that at least it has this authentic side that could be rechanneled. I mean, that seems to be part of the natural path of Timberland. Every so many years, somebody gets the bright idea to re-engage its core authenticity as an outdoor brand, and they go after it, have some success, and then let it go again. So maybe that's what we're just in the natural rhythm. Also VF is letting go of their pack business. Again, it's not a core backpack type of that we'd think of outdoor. It's definitely more of a back to school lifestyle with JanSport, Eastpak, and Kipling and things like that. So you can really see them starting to focus. And maybe what that means is a greater focus and concentration on their outdoor business. I mean, they have some pretty great brands when it comes to the outdoor itself, and some that are still small and really haven't realized what they could be. I mean, you see North Face here at the top and, Timberland off to that side, but there's a lot of growth that they could find, perhaps if they start to focus again.
On the Supreme brand front, though, it's an interesting point you make because, like, you say what you want about VF, or now you got the big corporate overlords acquiring your beloved Supreme, a few years ago. But it does make sense. They're. I mean, you're right. From the outdoor perspective, it's a little weird, but at least they know about making apparel. They know about it's not that far of a stretch. And to the idea that it goes to this eyewear maker, and everybody says the right thing at the beginning, like, oh, we're gonna let them do their thing. Mm-hmm. But where does that go? And you and I talked a little bit about this week. I mean, is this the road to Supreme becoming like a Marmot, where they just are mishandled for the next 3 acquisitions, 3 owners? You know what I mean? Before you know it, like Supreme is like champion. Mm. You start seeing Supreme sweatshirts in Walmart and stuff like that. I mean, I don't think that would have seemed, and that would never happen a few years ago. Now it's like, I could see a path to that happening.
Well, there's no reason to bring up Marmot and color this whole conversation, Colin. But that's pretty harsh. That's pretty harsh. But
no, but example of a brand that had like real clout in a space at one time, who now has kind of largely been left off to the side.
That in streetwear, Supreme's clout is probably the similar stickiness as our trade show discussions. Right. Ever since its purchase, I mean, they're $2 billion. I saw in one article that they've opened more retail in the last couple years than they have in 20 years. So that alone is going to start to dilute kind of this special sense. I mean, they're making massive moves into China, into Korea, again, places that you would expect, but at the same time, when you have a business built on absolute scarcity, you're going to run into this at some point. And, that's the nature of it, I think. But, again, I think it's really for us, it's just more about where does this fit into our ecosystem, and it doesn't. And, I don't think you need to buy yourself a collab partner necessarily. I think if you make a great product and have an authentic voice that you're telling your story with, people are going to want to partner with you. Real respect's real.
Well, we'll see where it all ends up. But so our next story, NBA superstar LeBron James invested in Canyon bicycles in 2022. And then this past week, a new campaign from Canyon was released featuring LeBron. The campaign was dubbed Find Your Freedom. And a supporting video shows LeBron riding bikes and narrating about the freedom we find by riding bikes. Many disciplines of cycling are featured in the video, from mountain biking to road and gravel and trials riding. I heard some other podcasters actually commenting on this story as being a miss because there was no signature LeBron James Canyon product here, and maybe that's coming down the road. But I don't really think that's what this is about. This isn't about a brand sponsoring an athlete. This is about, LeBron, who's been a vocal supporter of cycling for a long time, and just building a platform. Like he really seems to care about riding bikes. I remember him talking about riding bikes when he was on the Heat over 10 years ago. So it's just, they want to increase participation. And I think this is a huge win for cycling, and I'd say the outdoor community in general. And this is a perfect example, I think, of why representation matters and could matter even more when you have I'm going to call him the 4th best basketball player of all time. Ooh. We can get into who I have above him on the list.
Throwing rocks.
But not just being sponsored, but investing in a bike brand. I think it'll pay off in attracting new faces of the sport. So Dave, there are just sponsored athletes whose faces get used to give a face to a brand. But this seems to be something else entirely. I mean, kind of what was your impressions, like watching the video, kind of seeing where this all goes?
Look, I think you're spot on. This is not an endorsement play. This is a business opportunity. I would be really interested in a LeBron James gravel bike, though. I think that there's just something in that. But sure. Who knows? Maybe it does. Maybe they move downstream with it and try to open up the funnel. to that as well.
Yeah, but of all industries, the bike industry, which is just kind of a piece of shit industry, like he's not doing this to make money. He doesn't need to be sponsored. He's made hundreds of millions. He's probably a billionaire at this point. You know what I mean?
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. No, I think it's cool. And like I said, if it brings some attention to cycling, great, even better, right? This is, it's like you said, it's a tough industry, but it's a necessary one, and we want to see a healthy bike industry.
It reminds me a little of the Nike Tiger Woods ads from back in the day, and kind of the increase in diversity that golf saw as a result. And seeing even just the video, like seeing LeBron on a bike, and thinking that has got to have some impact with some black kid out there or whatever, right? I mean, just going to see something like this and be like, that looks sick. And it's like, and LeBron James is doing it. I feel like this is really going to have an impact.
I hope so. Well, we'll see where he goes. I mean, like I said, it might be a boardroom play versus an endorsement.
Yeah, but what boardroom? Who cares about Canyon? I mean, no, it's
boardroom play, meaning he's looking beyond his cycle or his basketball career. He's a businessman. I think he's got a lot of investments in a lot of different businesses. And I think if he's an enthusiast in cycling and he knows it, I mean, look, yeah. I have to say, if you told me an NBA player was going to invest in a cycling brand, Canyon would not be the first one on that list that I would think that they would go to. So that to me, that shows a little bit of insider knowledge of like what he's looking for and what kind of makes sense. This is totally the place to be in that kind of world. I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, well, they're basically a D2C. They're a D2C brand, so I think that's kind of like that was probably a little calculated too. They don't have to rely on bike shops and all that kind of stuff. It's just probably a big reason why this is who he went after.
Well, it's new school. This is the next generation of cycling brands. I could also see him, look, if this is an endorsement play, you're going to go to one of the legacy brands that does have wholesale distribution where, currently his name could add value to that kind of customer. And that's clearly not what he's doing here. This has definitely got more of a performance angle to it.
All right. So give me your top 4 NBA players of all time.
Oh, come on.
Come on. Tell me why LeBron's not number 4.
Because you got to make room for Michael Jordan. You got to make room.
Jordan's number 1. I got Kareem 2.
All right.
Bill Russell 3. And then LeBron.
See, anything that doesn't have trash talking and Larry Bird, I'm tough with.
You got to put Magic even over. You have to put Magic over Larry. I think he's more ships, I think so.
His trash talk is just not even on the same level. And then look, if we're really talking about this, I'm going to just put Bill Walton up there strictly for the deadhead inclusion.
Blazers homerism.
He won as many titles with the Celtics as he did with Portland. But he attended over 1,000 Grateful Dead shows. So...
well, okay, sorry. Grateful Dead homerism.
Yes.
All right, the last story for today is actually from a press release. Ingredient brand BOA, the shoelace replacement system you find on shoes in cycling, snow, athletic, and outdoor sports, put out a press release this week claiming that the BOA system on cycling shoes specifically enhances performance, citing an 11% gain in peak power output. And look, this is a press release that's going to paint BOA in the best light possible, and I don't really have any reason to doubt what they're claiming, but I did want to take the opportunity to just talk about BOA for a second. So at this past week at the OMA show we were just chatting about, we met with the PR team for La Sportiva, who has a running shoe with a BOA system on it. And I just asked, how is BOA being received for running products? And the person we spoke to said it does okay. It has a much wider acceptance in categories like cycling and snow. I think that makes sense. A lot of cycling shoes already use a variety of closure systems, and snowboarding boots specifically will benefit from a system like BOA. But I'm curious what the actual goal of BOA is. Are they trying to take over footwear en masse? Like, do they see a world where BOA's on every shoes? It seems like, frankly, the rare occasion where something slightly better but totally more complicated is kind of finding its audience. Kind of. I kind of beef with the better mousetrap that's, only making something slightly better but incredibly more complicated. So, as a casual outdoor enthusiast, Dave, what do you think when you see a BOA on a pair of shoes?
Oh, right now I see shoes that aren't for me. Right. Okay. But like you said, I mean, from a cycling, totally makes sense. From a snow sport, yeah, I get that. Are they really that much more complicated, or is it just more of a talking point. Sure. I mean, look, we know how laces work. That's great. I like the idea of it. I think that's where I'm intrigued by this idea of something simple, dialed, and just provides you great tight fit or whatever that fit. So, are we still on the beginning? Is this still the beginning of the journey when it talks about, you said slight increment? Okay, but
over a decade in.
Yeah, but hey, someday we'll get it right.
Someday. I've had one experience with BOA. Actually, I guess it's over a decade because they were on a pair of Timberlands that we made, and that was the late aughts. But they broke like pretty quickly. I'm assuming the product's much better now than it was then.
Is that what breaks? Or does it the dial?
No, the dial. I was on my daughter who's now 18, she was a toddler, and we were on a plastic slide at a playground, and I banged my shoe on the side of the slide, and it just splintered.
So you're saying that the park was too much of a performance environment for the...
On a pair of trail running shoes where you encounter rocks and logs and all sorts of stuff.
I'm afraid that the cord's going to cut your foot off or something, some kind of like razor wire. Like that would just...
Well, you just unlocked a new fear for me. I didn't even think of that.
See? You got to be...
Of course, if you're then Jason Bourne, you can rip your laces off and choke out a guy, right?
It's a self-defense mechanism. Okay, I'm in.
I mean, but again, this was a long time ago. I'm sure it's better. But if you follow folks like Adam Jabber over at the Out of Collective, he's also a bike and ski tech in addition to all the great content they make. But it does seem like they break and require repair. I think it's a low rate, but it's still a rate. But it's also, when it breaks, where are you? You're typically not a place where you're like, I'll just roll into the shop and have my BOA fixed. And so it can actually become, I think, a real problem. But if you have a shoelace, well, you can just kind of tie a knot, and there you go. You'll get by until you get back to your car. I don't know. This just still seems to me like a lot of complication for very little upside, especially when it comes to running shoes and things like that.
Well, I think you've just laid down the groundwork. I'd love to talk to somebody from BOA about kind of the specifics and nuances.
Why? They'll just tell you how great it is. We should bring Jabber on, see what Jabber has to say.
Either way, or a snake handler, one of the two. But
or Jabber and a BOA person at the same time, and we'll just step back and let them rock fight. It'll be great.
I'm in. I think one of those hazy IPAs would be a great way to take that in.
Well, that's all we got today, but I did want to mention that it is both National Junk Food Day and National Ice Cream Day. So in honor of both these days, I wanted to give you my Desert Island all-time top 5 worst things to eat that are awesome list. So I'm going to have number 5, I put Ruffles, because I have a real soft spot for Ruffles. I love a salty fried potato, as you'll find out in a couple other spots when I bring in another salty fried potato. Ruffles, though, just feel like when you're eating them, you're like, oh, this isn't even a chip. This is like processed potato product that's been like made crunchy and doused with salt, and it's great.
Do you like just the salt, or because they do have the cheddar, so you could douse that in some kind of synthetic orange cheddary substance as well.
I just like the basic chip. Yeah. I think it's like crunchy salt. That's sort of potato-y. Number 4. Soft pretzel with a beer and cheese dipping sauce. And you go to the pub and they bring out the soft pretzel like the size of your head, and it's just super kind of crunchy and chewy on the outside and just soft in the middle. And then they get you that sauce. It's like beer and cheese. Like, what combination? Like, where's the health value in that? It's not. It's just beer and cheese, but it's so good. And the Bavarians are happy that you're supporting their culture.
Again, I take issue with you classifying this as a junk food. This is another one of those staples. This might be more of a winter staple, but the soft pretzel is culinary perfection if done right. Little, nice little.
I do agree.
Right, that nice little hard shell.
But show me the.
You break it open.
Who says? Where does it say on? They're saying, hey, for the for muscle growth or for your heart health, eat the cheese and beer doused soft pretzel. It's not on that list. There's no nutritional value.
That's German soul food. Come on.
Well, that's true. All right, I had to include a candy, and I'm not a huge candy guy. I try not to eat a lot of candy, but when I do, it's going to be number 3, which I feel this should be the universally accepted best candy of all time, which is the Reese's Peanut Butter Cup. And to all you fruity candy people out there, you're wrong. Chocolate candy, if you make a list of the best candy, you got at least 8 to 9 spots of chocolatey stuff before a fruit thing can enter the list. I have real reservations on someone who puts fruity candy first on their list. You're a fruity candy guy, aren't you?
I think gummy Avengers should unite.
Number 2, another salty potato, Five Guys fries. Sometimes we'll get Five Guys just for the fries.
I think we should have just given you a salt lick and let you go with that.
All right, my last one. Again, I try really hard to avoid sweets and dessert. It's just because I feel like, I try to because I have a real sweet tooth and I almost want to like just really save it. I threw the affogato in there. It's my favorite dessert. It's just ice cream and espresso. Again, I'm sure you can make the argument that this is way better than anything else on my list, but it's the thing I can resist the least probably on the list, and that's why I put it at number one. No notes?
No notes. I mean, look at coffee and ice cream. Again, solid.
But Dave, what's my most egregious miss here on the list?
Well, I think I've pretty covered it well. I think you're, by leaving out the gummy category, which also you could play into the sour world, it really does show a lack of creativity and just kind of synapses that really kind of come together with that. It really keeps you going. I don't know if it fits in here, but jerky of some kind, might fit. I don't know if that's considered a junk food. It could be.
I think that's kind of relatively healthy snack, isn't it? Don't people eat jerky?
I don't know. All I know is it's like $25 now for like 3 ounces of it. There's no way I can even consider.
The sodium counts like off the charts.
It is. And, it's the staple of the gas station Quickie Mart. But,
what on the gummy side, do you like Swedish Fish, or are you like, it's got to be more of like a Sour Patch Kid?
Those are fine, Sour Patch Kid. I'm a classic Haribo. You got to go for just the classic.
No. I was gonna say, you're all about the German snacks. You're going to give this guy a soft pretzel with some Haribos, and he's going to be in good shape for forever.
Right, little Dunkelweits. You got it.
Dunkelweiss. All right, man. Well, we can wrap it up there. The Rock Fight's a production of Rock Fight LLC. Our producer today, as you heard him, was David Karstad. Art direction provided by Sarah Gensert. I'm Colin Shrew. Thanks for listening. He's back once again, ladies and gentlemen, to take us out. It's Krista Makes. He's going to sing the Rock Fight fight song right now, and we'll see you next time, Rock Fighters.
Rock Fight.